Here we go. Masechta Menochos Daf Chazayin Amud Aleph. We're starting from the Mishnah. It's around 5 lines from the top. Says the Mishnah, "Koinetz mi'utei ma'akiv surbei." If somebody made a kmitza, and the kmitza has to be filled over here, and if it's missing even a drop, it's possible. Isarei, that's the whole mincha. The whole mincha from which you take off the scoop, the whole share of the mincha is minimum a isari. A tenth of a very good. Isari says mi'ut mi'akiv. If it's missing from the isari, from the whole mincha, that the isari, that drop off.
Me'akiv means a drop?
No, me'akiv means it holds back. It's not going to be good. Mi'ut means a drop. So mi'ut ma'akiv suruba. It means the mi'ut, this little drop, holds back the whole thing, the whole ring. Hayayin, by the yain of the sachin, each one has by each behemoth it's different. It depends which nesachim it is. But if it's missing from the wine or by the lug yayin, mi'ut ma'akiv suruba. The drop that's missing holds back the whole thing. Hashemen, the oil, and he brings down the oil is the shemen of the minchas nesachim that has the same shear as by wine. You remember by wine we have a revi'is for lamb, and a third of a hin is for ram. I mean the revi'is hin is for a shetzla, a sheep.
Yeah.
A third is for a ram, and a half of a hin is for a plow. And the same thing is by oil. So if you're missing a drop of the oil, the akim is removed. This drop is marking the whole thing. I say it's Vashaman, the fine flour and the oil, marking says that. But if you're missing one of them, by the mincha it's possible. HaKoimetz v'alavena marking says that. If he didn't burn the koimetz and the spices, the knitzes, the soilers, and the levena on his bed, then it's not the shirayim that's left over from it. You cannot eat. It didn't accomplish its mission. Begging one of my time, what's the reason that even if a drop is missing by the koimetz is no good? So yeah, some it says in the pasuk like it says it has to be a full scoopful, and it says it twice. And whenever it says it twice, it's la'akiv. La'akiv means to hold back, that you're not fulfilling it unless you have the exact. Isarei, mi'ut mi'akiv surbei. By Yisrael, that means the whole mincha has to be Yisrael. If a drop is missing, the whole thing is no good. My time, what's the reason? Because it says in the pasuk, he sold top, the extra hay, she'im chassid, that if it's missing the seidus, even though kol shu, still it's going to be possible. That's what the hay teaches us. By wine, how do we know? Even if a drop of the wine is missing, it's market. So it says kacha. Kacha means exactly like this is how it has to be done. So the word kacha teaches us on the equal. Oil, if you're missing a drop of the oil, which is the same share as the wine, then it's ma'akiv, it holds back the whole thing. The minchas nesachim, because by minchas nesachim, the same kacha that says by wine says also by oil. Okay, minchas nedava. How do we know by minchas nedava? Makar says in the pasuk mishamna with the hay, that the extra hay is extra. She'im chassid, that if it's missing the oil, even by a mincha of nedava, kol shu, still it's going to be possible. Shemen, Hashem, I've said the oil and the flour, you cannot be missing either. Misolto mishamna. How do we know? Because it says twice. It says from the fine flour and from its oil, and then it says megish u'mishamna. Megish is from the fine barley and its oil. Barley was also used for mincha. Which mincha did they use the barley for? Mincha soita and the mincha. Those two were used from barley. The koimetz and levena, if you're missing one of them, it's going to be market. Why? Because it says in the pasuk, the beginning of the pasuk is becomes mishamna like mishamna. It says al kol levenaisa, and then it says so here you have twice in the Torah it says about the spices al kol levenaisa, and then it says when it says twice in the Torah the same thing, it's to hold back that you have to have the exact amount. Says the there were two goats that were brought on Yom Kippur. Those two goats, the Davids of Yom Kippur, the Kohen took two goats, one for a chatas and one that he sent la'azozo. They hold back one another. You need both. Shnei kivsei atzeres. On Chag HaShavuos, they brought two shepsim together with two chalis. They hold back one the other. You need to have both. Shnei chalis, the two shtei alechem of Chag HaShavuos. You cannot be missing any. But again, shtei alechem v'akabonis, they're all back of one another. Shtei zdarim shalach haponim. Zdarim are these sets of six on the lechem on the table. There were 6 chalis, 2 sets of 6 chalis. So the 2 zdarim, the 2 sets of 6, you can't have a table just with 6 and 1 seder on it. You need both biyets. So shtei bezichin. Then there were 2 frankincense and 2 cups, which they would bring into the mizbeach to burn, and then they would be able to eat the challah. You must have both spoons. Missing one, no good. Now, where are we up to? Okay, as the sets of 6, v'abazichin, and the 2 cups of levena that come together with it, Malcolm says that they hold back one another, meaning you cannot have one without the other. If you don't have the bazichin, even though you have the 2 sets of chalas, it's not going to be good. Shnei haminim of the breads, shebekam nazir, there were 2 sets of minim. It says at the end of Naziris, the nazir would bring 3 karbanis, a oila, a chatas, and a asham, together with a shlamim. And he would bring 2 types of breads. One was called chalis, like chalis, or he came out wafers. And he brought 10 of each min. Okay, so, and the shleisha, the 3 minim that were by the para aduma, they brought 3 types. Okay, there it wasn't bread, but there were 3 minim. What were the 3 minim that they had? They had, let me see if he has it. 8 eres. You had to have cedar wood. Azav, it was a certain grass, ushni salas, like what was it called in English? Hyssop. Hyssop. Yes. Hyssop. So there were 3 minim there that they used to dip into the blood to spray it from the para aduma. V'abah, and the 4 types of lechem that were in the Korban Torah. With the Korban Torah you had chalis, matzos, rikike matzos, and sodas morbechas. So you had 4 types. And the 4 minim of Shabbat. The 4 minim of a lulav. You have the esrei, lulav, hadas, and haramis. And then the 4 minim that were by Metzeda, by the Seder of the Tara. What were the 4 minim? So again, they're the same thing. 8 eres, Ezo, Shni Salas. But in addition to those 3 that we spoke about by Nazir, they also had the shtei tzipim, the 2 birds. Makom zeh. You have to have all of them. You can't be missing any of them. Sheva hazayis shebem ponim hakazu hazeh. The 7 sprays of the para aduma. If you don't have all 7, it's ma'akim. He says you need all 7. Okay, and you have to spray it towards the face of the oil mayed 7 times. Sheva hazayis shal bein habadim. And those hazayis by Aved Sayim HaKippurim, the Kohen Gadol would spray first from the Dama Par Dama Sawyer in the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Where would he spray it? When he was from the Par Sawyer, what was it called? Par Sawyer and the Par Dama Par and the Dama Sawyer. Where would he spray it first? In the Kodesh HaKadoshim. Where would he stand? The Aaron had 2 sticks. He would stand it between the 2 sticks and throw it towards the Aaron. So he says over there, you needed all the hazayis. Sheva hazayis shal bein habadim. That's what he was talking about. Shal hapareiches. Then when you were outside the Kodesh HaKadoshim, you were in the heichel, you had to spray again sometimes towards the reiches. You needed all 7. Shal mizchazam, on the mizchazam, they sprayed on the platform on the top. They sprayed 7 times after smearing the 4 corners. They hold back one another. Now comes the psukim here. What do we know that? Chukka. Chukka means exact. This is the chayk. Can't change how do you say a chayk in English, but gesetz. That's what it is. Shnei kivsi atzeres. Mehakim zeh. What we learn out from Havaya. This is how it should be. Havaya is also like chukka, like. Okay, Havaya is like chukka, or like v'hayu. Shtei chalos, Havaya. Like shtei chalos, it says also the word Havaya. If you want to know the pasuk, it says Soilas to Yena, and by Kivsi Atzeres it says Kedushiyu. Vishnei Zdarim, by the two Zdarim of the chalos that were on the shulchan. How do you know of the lach mapanim? How do you know? Because it says chukka. It says the word chukka. It says Meisha Hashem chak olam. And also the Shnei Bezichin, the 2 spoons of frankincense. Chukka. It says the word chukka. Zdarim. How do we know that the seder of the lach mapanim v'habazichin, you needed the full combo, that one without the other will not work? Chukka. We learn out from this that it says chak olam. Shnei aminim shall become nazir. How do we know the 2 minim in the cup in nazir, that they hold back one another? The chsiv kei yasa. Yasa is also. This is how it should be. No other way. Shleisha shall be parah. The 3 minim of the parah aduma. You remember the hyssop, the grass that they used to spray? Chukka, it says chukka. Abba mini alachem shebet. The 4 types of breads that were by the container, like we said before. The iskish, the lachmet nazir. It's compared to the lachmet nazir. It's written in the same passage. See, by lachmet hazel teinu shlama. It says hazel teinu shlama. Mama shlama balarabbe is lachmet shalmei nazir. Shlama is coming to include the shalmei nazir, that you need the 10 kabin Yerushalmis of soiles and the revis of shemen, like the lachmet teinu. Okay, so the 4 minim by Mitzvah, they hold back one another. It says Zeis Tiya. So from the word Zeis Tiya, we learn out Havaya. It's a lashon Havaya. Ikuv. It holds back. You need this. Next, V'hadin ve'abah shebelulav. The 4 minim of lulav. How do we know? It says Lakachtam. You remember what the pasuk was by the 4 minim? Lakach lachem v'yem erishim pri eis. Hadar. Lakachtam. So the word Lakach lakichatama has to be complete taking. You have to take 4 minim as one. It might even have to be bounded as one. You need, there's a machlokes if you need it should be tied together or not, but it has to be like one. In our Mishnah that we need the 4 minim are one another. Only if he doesn't have one of the 4. If he has all 4, they're not going to hold back, even if they're not placed in one. If it's not tied together, even if it's not tied together in one bound. May say, from a brayso, the 4 minim of a lulav, shnai mehem, 2 of them is the esek, right? Yeah. Okay, oisim peiris. 2 of them make peiris. The esek is peiris, and the date tree is peiris. That's the esek and the lulav. But the hadas and the they don't make any peiris. Oisim peiris, he uses a kudla shein oisim peiris. Those that make peiris need those that don't make peiris. The shein oisim peiris, he uses a kudla oisim peiris. And those that don't make peiris need those that do. Till they're all tied up in one. This we learn out that united. You didn't have to be united. Even the Rishonim have to be part of it, and each min represents a different person. So too, when people Yidden are fasting, they're not answered till everybody is united. The tzaddikim, the Rishonim, all 4 minim of the lulim, they cannot. The 2 that don't make payers, 2 that do make, they all have to be united. That at the time when Yidden are unified, then there's a foundation. That means the time, all the minim together, is ma'akiv, holds back the mitzvah. Not like Avchar Rabba. He feels that no, you need a aguda. It has to be tied in order to fulfill the mitzvah. If it's not tied together, it's ma'akiv. You're not fulfilling the mitzvah. Tanoi says, it's a machlokes. You ask me from a brayso, it's a machlokes. The time we learned a brayso. One says little bein agid, bein agid, shein agid, whether it's tied with all 4 minimum or not. Kasha, it's kasha. Rabbi Yehuda little agid, kasha. Shein agid, puzzle. Rabbi Yehuda agid is with the Tanakh comment. He says it's going to be puzzle. For example, by talking to Rabbi Yehuda that if it's not agid, it's puzzle. He says, Gama, we learn out Kikam Agid say so. That either were commanded on Pesach that to take this the hyssop and dip it in the blood and to put it on the mashkef, on the doorpost and on the top and the 2 doorposts. So it says Lokachtam Agud say so. Over there it says Lokachtam. And by us, by the Dalad Minim also says Lokachtam Lacham. By here it says Lashon Lokachtam. Malahalam, just like by the spraying of the blood. By Aguda, those grasses have to be tied together. Those minim that you used to dip in the blood to smear on the doorposts had to be tied together. Avkan, so too, where it says Lokachtam by the same word Lokachtam by the Dalaminim, by Aguda has to be tied. Rabbanan lo yigamri. Rabbanan don't learn this Gzeir Shabbat Kicha Kicha. They don't learn out the just like it says by Aguda say so too here it has to be Lokachtam, meaning in tied up together. In fact, you want to come out on the Tanya. Like whom is this following Baraisa? Like which Tanya? Lula mitzvah loida. It says a lulav you have. It's a mitzvah to tie all the 3 or 4 minutes together. I got it. Kasha. It's kasha. So if you want to come on, you ask me like who? It cannot be because Rabbi Yehuda said, "Lo yagadi." It's not kasha. Lo yagadi. My kasha. You said if it wasn't tied, it's kasha. Rabbi Yehuda says if it's not agadi, it's not kasha. Banan. What's the mitzvah? You saying it's a mitzvah, Agve? Rabbanan say you don't need it tied up. Says you want to learn Rabbanan. Really, it follows Rabbanan. My mitzvah. What is it? The mitzvah? We should say because it's a mitzvah to beautify every mitzvah, and it's more beautified when they're tied together. That's the mitzvah. We said the din of Sheva Hazoyis Shebeporim Akas Vazu. The 7 sprays that they spray by the pur. If you're missing one, no good. Sheva Hazoyis Albein Habadim. When he went inside the Kedusha Genoshim with the dam sir and dam pur to spray the blood by the Aaron, stood between the 2 sticks. So he says if he misses one, and also by the Shom Mischazav on the top of the Mizbeach, they sprayed 7 times. Well, Shal HaParechas, and towards the Parechas, towards the curtain, if you're missing one, they hold back. It's not, you're not fulfilling the mitzvah. Then you want to get like you put it, it's Ksiv Chukah. By Yom Kippur, it says Beferish. By spraying, you need Chukah. This is how it be. It has to be 7. You cannot have 6 if it's a 7. The Par Kohen HaMashiach, that's the Par Chatas of the Kohen Gadol, with the Par Halam Dav Shal Tzibur, these are this blood that was sprayed in the Heichal, inside, by the Mizbeach HaPninim. Udesiri Avinz Kechavim, and also the Sir Chatas that was brought for the sin of Avinz of the Tzibur. So you want to tell you like we said in the Braisa, it says, you should do to the Par Halam Dav Shal Tzibur like you did to the Par Chatas. What does he come to teach us? He's saying it again, you're saying you should do to this par halam dava like you did the par chatas, but you already enumerated what are you doing by the par halam dava. So why are you saying and do it like by the par chatas? So he's saying it twice. Why are you saying it twice? That if you missed one of the times, you haven't fulfilled anything. You cannot miss anything. It has to be exactly the ingredients. Rabbanim learned Sheva Hazois b'Sheva Par, the 7 sprays of the Par Aduma. Shason Bein Shalom Lishman Bein Shalom Chovanos. Whether he did it the 7 sprays, not having a mind for the carbon, right? He did Avik Gabanon. It has to be Lishma. Every carbon that you spray, you have to have a mind for. Oh, I'm spraying for this carbon chatzis that I brought. You can't say, oh, it's for come to over here, I'll come to Shlamim or whatever. So he says, and Bein Shalom Chovanos, and also whether it wasn't. He has to do it towards the Heichel, and when he turned in a different direction, it says Aleich Bnei Amen Sulis. It's possible because it says it has to be towards the Ayomeim. Okay, so it says Gemara Hazay Shabifnim and the sprays in the Heichel of the Chatz Sapnimis Visha b'Mitzayah, and also the Luk Shemen that the Mitzayah brings to purify himself. If it was done Shalei Lishman, if he didn't have in mind for what he's bringing it for, the sprays. Or the Lug Hashem that he's bringing. He didn't have the sprays or the Lug Hashem that he brought it for. He didn't bring for the sake what he brought it for, psulis. Shloim Chavonis Ksheris. But if he didn't have it towards the right direction, then it's going to be kosher. So if you might ask a steer about time, we learned in the brisa, another brisa by Paraduma, the 7 azois shaloi lishmam psulis. If by the 7 azois, if he didn't do it for the sake of a chatas, it's possible. Shloim Chavonis, but if he didn't do it towards the entrance of the heichal, because the Paraduma was burnt outside the Beis Hamikdash, but when they sprayed the blood outside the Beis Hamikdash, it had towards the direction of the heichal. So he didn't face the heichal, and it says it's ksheris. And before we said that if it was shaloi mechuvanes, that it's going to be possible. So it's a steer. It's not a question. This Braisa, the first Braisa that says when it's not facing the Keneg the heichal, it's placed apostle. The Hazos apostle was the Rabbi Yehuda. This Braisa that was Machshir the Hazos that weren't facing the heichal, that's the Rabbanan. Where do we see that? The Tanya Rabbi this Machlekes. Somebody who's missing kapara. What does it mean? He's missing kapara. Somebody who's a zav or a zava, and there's more. Yelez, a woman who has a child, a mitzvah. So there, they have to go to mikveh. They have to wait till the night goes down. But there's an additional thing, more than a tulyayin, that the next day they have to bring a carbon. What if they didn't bring the carbon yet, and they went to mikveh, and the sun went down? So what are they called? Mechusri kapara. It's a very light tumah, because he's only missing one detail. So it says, if he went in,
he's still tumah.
Right, but if he went into the Hazara, and he did one of these things, b'shegi chaim chatas, him b'mezit anishkalis. So what happened over here? He brings down that he went, he didn't finish, he didn't bring the carbon yet, b'chuski put him. So he's kitame, he's like a tummy that enters the Hazara, okay, and he's chayv achatas, like somebody who's like a b'shegi, but if he doesn't remain, he's chayv achatas. Ve'etz hanachleina tul yayin l'shor kalat mein. And how much more so tul yayin if is somebody only went to mikveh and didn't wait for the sun to go down? That's a bigger tumah. How much more so that if he went into the azar b'shegi, he's going to be chayv achatas, and if he went to mezid, he's going to be chayv kares. Utahirim shenichnesu lifnim mechitzasa. What's it tahir? That they went in to the 11 amos of the Eretz Yisrael, that's where you officially allowed to go, as he sold. If he went in base, and if he went Mahechal Kulei, then if he entered now the Heichal, Ma'aboyim, he gets 40 malchus. If he went in base Leparechas, he went into the Kodesh HaKadoshim al Pnei HaKapayis, he went into the Kodesh HaKadoshim before the Aron, then it's B'misa B'dei Shamayim. So here he breaks it down. You have if he goes into the Heichal, 40 malchus. He goes in from the house to the Pareiches, to the Kodesh HaKadoshim.
This is the official amount, but if they decide that you can't handle 40, they don't give you 40, right?
Right. But here he's dividing. But if you go to the Pnei HaKapayis, then it's Misa. Going into the Kodesh HaKadoshim, going into the Kodesh is Malchus. But going into the Kodesh HaKadoshim is Misa. That's the Tanakh Kama.
If you're Tamei or Bechlal?
No, we're talking about one of these tumas. Right. Rabbi Yehuda says the whole Heichal, and also entering into the Kodesh HaKadoshim, you get still 40 malchus. But once you reach right before the Arim, between the two stakes, that's where it's B'misa. Okay? If you went right before the Arim. In fact, you might come in for you. So you have Machlekes. One says, Heichal and entering the Kodesh HaKadoshim is just 40 malchus. The only time you get Misa is when you're standing right before the Arim. The other one says, no, Heichal is malchus. Once you enter the Kodesh HaKadoshim, it's Misa, just like you go be right in front of the Arim. So what are they arguing? It says, you want to be Haikra, they're arguing this pasuk. It says, Hashem said to Moshe, speak to Aaron your brother, Al Yavai, do not come in. B'chol Eisel HaKodesh, at all times into the Kodesh, Mibeis LaPareches, from the Heichal into the Kodesh, HaKadoshim, Al Pnei HaKapayis, to the face of the Kodesh, Hashal Harim V'Yamas. So Rabbanim, this is a play of words. Rabbanim Savi El HaKodesh. You see,
Yeah.
regular Kodesh. He says Lo Yaveh. Put a period.
Here.
Mibeis lapareiches velpnei kaparis Lo Yamos. He puts a period after Lo Yaveh, which Lo Yaveh only goes on Ala Kodesh, then it's Malchus. And then the second part is Mibeis lapareiches velpnei kaparis Lo Yamos. So he says entering the Kodesh Kedoshim or going in front of the kaparis, there it's Misa. Rabbi Yehuda say, no. El HaKodesh Umibeis lapareiches. He says you don't put the period after El HaKodesh Lo Yaveh. After Umibeis lapareiches, it says El HaKodesh Umibeis lapareiches Lo Yaveh. And then when it says Al Pnei HaKaparis Lo Yamos. So what am I talking about? What's the reasoning of the Rabbanan that they say that even entering the Kodesh Kedoshim, it's only going to be Malchus? He says, if it's going to end in mind that one who enters the Kodesh Kedoshim without going to the Aron is only Chaim Malchus, Lichte Rachmana Ala Kodesh, let the Torah write Ala Kodesh, that's below Yahweh, well, Apnei HaKapeir is below Yamos, and entering right in front, do the two extremes. The least is just entering the Heichel is only Malchus, Al Yahweh, and the other extreme is going right in front of the Aron, that it's Misa. Don't say the middle one. But now I'll say the Heichel Mechayiv Malchus. For the Heichel Yechayiv Malchus Mebeis Lapareiches Mebayim. Is there need to say from the house into the Pareiches you're going to be Chayiv Malchus? If he enters the Kodesh Kedoshim Mebeis Lapareiches, right? He first goes to the Heichel, and he already went through the Heichel, and he's Chaim Malchus. So for sure, if he goes to the Beis Lapareiches, he's going to be Chaim Malchus. What does he have to Kos HaKmona? Why did the Torah normally? Why did the Torah have to write in the Beis Lapareiches? Shema Mina is that from this that he goes to the Beis Lapareiches, he's going to get Misa. Rabbi Yehuda, what's Rabbi Yehuda going to say? He says, "Ich Kos HaKmona La Kodesh." Let the Torah, if the Torah would have only written La Kodesh, well, they cost me Beis Lapareiches. And the Torah wouldn't write from the house to the Pareiches. Hava Amina, I would have said, what's the kavanah of Kodesh? Mi Beis LaPareiches. Kodesh Kedoshim is Mi Beis LaPareiches, not the Heichel. And I would have made a mistake and say, entering the Kodesh Kedoshim, Yahiva, B'Layaveh, and Yechai Malchus. Aval Heichel, but on entering the Heichel, Lav, Nami Yeloi. There's not even a Lav if you enter the Heichel. Because I would say that the Beis LaPareiches is like the Heichel part, and the Pnei HaKapeir is the Kodesh Kedoshim. But the Heichel itself is nothing. There's no love. That's why we needed all three. Rabbanan, Ahu, this place, I would have never, the Heichel, I would have never said it's Kodesh. I'm sorry, the Beis, I would have never said that the Beis LaPareiches, you're saying I would have said Kodesh is Mi Beis LaPareiches. I would have never said that Kodesh is Mi Beis LaPareiches. Loi Matzos Haber. Why? Because the Heichel Kuli Kodesh. The whole Heichel is called Kodesh. Shadama, like it says in the Pasuk, Ve'ivdila HaPareiches Lahem Lachem Bein HaKodesh and Bein Kodesh HaKadoshim. So Bein HaKodesh there, when it says Pareiches, is the Heichel. So you can't say that I would have thought the Heichel is, the whole Heichel is called Kodesh. Ubein Kodesh HaKadoshim. So the word Mebeis LaPareiches was not needed to teach us that the Kodesh is the Heichel. Okay, so what do we see there? If the din was like Rabbi Yehuda, that somebody who enters the Kodesh HaKadoshim without going to the Arein, he's only going to be Chayav Malchus. So that is a kasha. If he enters the Kodesh HaKadoshim without going to the Arein, he's only Chayav Malchus. So the Torah should have not written in Beis LaPareiches, since he is Chayav Malchus already right at the moment that he entered the Heichel. So what do you have to say in Beis LaPareiches that is Chayiv Malchus, if he was already Chayiv Malchus coming to the Beis LaPareiches? Rabbi Yehuda, my time, what's the reason of Rabbi Yehuda? Says, you want to eat how Kadash is going to come, if it's going to enter like the Chachamim, the one who enters the Kodesh HaKadoshim is Chayiv Misa, even before entering in front of the Aron, Lichter Achmanan, that the Torah should have only written Al HaKodesh B'lo Yavai, Umi Beis LaPareiches B'lo Yamos. You could have said the Beis LaPareiches B'lo Yamos. You don't need Al Pnei HaKaperes. If he's already Chayev, Misa, right when he enters the Kodesh HaKadoshim before coming to the Kaperes, if right when he passes the curtain he's already Chayev Misa before coming to the Arid, so what do I have to say by the Arid is Chayev Misa? He's already Chayev Misa on his way to the Arid. So he says, "V'lo Baya Al Pnei HaKaperes." Well, no, I mean, Beis LaPareiches Misa Al Pnei HaKaperes B'Baya. That Pnei HaKaperes for sure is going to have Misa. Al Pnei HaKaperes is the cousin of one lovely. What is the Torah after right Al Pnei HaKaperes? Shema Mino. From here we learn out somebody who enters the Pnei HaKaperes is B'Misa. And Beis LaPareiches is only going to be Hazara Malchus. Rabbanan. So now, according to Rabbanan, Hachanam Leitzarech, we don't need this pasuk of entering the Pnei HaKaperes that you Chayv Misa. Since you already Chayv Misa by the Heichal, why did the Rabbanan have to say Al Pnei HaKaperes? Why did the pasuk have to say, according to Rabbanan, that when you enter in front of the Aron you Chayv Misa? If they already said that the moment you pass that curtain you Chayv Misa, before you even get to the Pnei HaKaperes, so why say Pnei HaKaperes? Al Pnei HaKaperes L'miyutei Derech Meshupesh. He's coming to exclude Derech Meshupesh. What does that mean? That it says you have to come into the Heichal, facing the Heichal. Once if you went from the side of the Heichal, and you came with a jackhammer and you broke into the wall where the Kodesh HaKadoshim is and you entered there. That's not the face of the Heichal. The face of the Heichal has has an entrance for this side.
Yeah.
So he's coming to exclude that or he dug a tunnel and he came from the ground.
It's over here, no?
Yeah. This is the Kodesh HaKadoshim. This is the face of the Heichal, right? So what did he do? He dug a tunnel, he came from under inside here, or he came to this wall and jackhammered on the side.
Okay.
Oh, very good. You have the picture. I didn't even see that picture. Oh, I just passed it like that. Whoa. Oh, here you have all the pictures. I should have done with you the pictures. Oh, here's the Heichal.
Right.
And then you see the two lines, and that's the Pareiches.
Okay.
And that's, once you pass the Pareiches, he says you're already Chayv Misa, the Rabbanan. So what? Before you even touch the Aron,
You're really Chayav Misa.
you're ready. So once you have to say Pnei HaKaperes, the Kaperes were the things on the Aron.
Yeah.
The Kaperes, the Kruvim were on the Kaperes.
Oh.
Kaperes was the cover of the
Okay.
Aron. So he says, why do you have to talk about the Pnei HaKaperes? The moment he went with Beis LaPareiches, the moment he passed the curtain of the first foot, he was already Chayv Misa. So what do you have to say Pnei HaKaperes again? So he says he's coming to exclude if you came in from this direction, not in this direction, that you're not going to be Chayev. Meaning, you're not going to be Chayv Misa.
Right.
You came in from the wrong
You have,
direction. You're going to be Chayev for sure, for coming into the Kodesh HaKadoshim. In the Tana, the way, like it was learned in the B'rais, the Beis Medrash of Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov. What does he say? It says, "El Pnei HaKaperes Keima." It says, facing the Pnei HaKaperes of the east. Zeh Bara'av. This is a rule for all over. Kol Makom Shenema Pnei, wherever it says facing, Einei El Pnei Kodem. It's talking about facing east. So when the Torah says somebody who enters the Kodesh HaKadoshim of Pnei HaKaperes, it means the east of the Kaperes. If he comes from that direction, he's Chayv Misa. Only if he comes from the east towards the Kaperes. Rabbi Yehuda will say, of Pnei HaKaperes, if he says, if it was come to tell us that if he came from a different direction, he's not going to be Chayv Misa. So later crowd, the pasuk should have said just the word Pnei. My El, why did the pasuk have to say the extra word El HaKaperes? So obviously, he's come to teach us that somebody who comes close to the face of the Kaperes, he's going to be Chayv Misa. Meaning, right from if he comes close to the Pnei HaKaperes, so from here you know that somebody comes just through the curtain, he's not Chayv Misa, he's only even allowed because he's not yet, he didn't turn. Where's that picture?
Right there.
You have, when you come, you have to turn this way, face this way, towards the other was this way. But As long as he walked in, according to Rabbi Yehuda, he's not Chaim Misa because he has to be facing.
Once you pass the pareches, though, not
Right.
when you're walking towards
We're
it.
talking about the moment you pass the pareches, you're still not Chaim Misa because it said by the kaperas, Pnei has to be turned. He's not turned to Misa, so he's still only going to be allowed.
Okay.
And he says it doesn't have to be Pnei. It doesn't mean Pnei you have to face Mizrach. I'm sorry. Rabbi Yehuda says it doesn't have to face Mizrach. It has to be close. It says El. If it only meant Mizrach, it would have only said Pnei. But this that it says El, it says it doesn't have to be Mizrach Ma'ash. Shmami does, so we learn now from Rabbi Yehuda El that says in the Torah, B'dafka. He says, the El that says in the Torah, according to Rabbi Yehuda, when the Torah says Opnei HaKaperes, so it says just, the El means even just coming close to the Arin. El means coming close, it means B'dafka, and you're going to be Chaim Misa. According to Opnei HaKaperes, is Lafdafka close. The Chila Misa is on the...
El is closer than Agave, or whatever, right?
El
El
is
is
closer than the Rabban. If you learn El, that means Lav Dafka, you don't have to be close. According to Rabban, you don't have to be close to be Chaim Misa. According to Rabbi Yehuda, the only time you're going to be Chaim Misa is when El Dafka is not just facing Mizrach, but you have to be El close to the Mizbeah. Rabban said, well, Lav Dafka doesn't mean that means right next to it. So the moment that you cross the line of passing the curtain,
Right, then you're already El.
you're already Chaim Misa, according to Rabbanan. Then you're already El, right?
Right.
It doesn't have to be
Mamish.
Mom is close. According to Rabbi Yehuda, no, El is only when you're right there, we're right by the ark. Okay, Shema Mina. Okay, it says Rabbi Yehuda, the Amma El Pnei HaKaperes Dafka. According to Rabbi Yehuda, it says El means really, literally close. The Hizel, it says the Hizel, you should spray El Meichot Pnei Omeid towards the face of the Omeid. Nabi Dafka, I'm going to say, you have to be right there, right, the entrance of the oil has to be right next to it. That the Dam HaPorah was done, and if the Hazois of the Dam HaPorah was not done right next to the Pesach of the Eichel, it's possible. So the first price of the apostles, the Hazois Shein Mechovanos, is that follows Rabbi Yehuda. The Rabbanim in the Hasan Lav Dafka, Chadam Lav Dafka. The Rabbanim say, hey, just like when you enter the Kleish Shekedoshim, the pasuk says Opnei HaKaperes is Lav Dafka, and even without coming close to the Kaperes, you still Chaim Misa. So too by the Hazois of Dam HaPorah towards the Pnei Omeid, you don't have to be right there, right next to the Oil Meid. And even if the Hazois were not done exactly facing the entrance of the Oil Meid, according to the Rabbanim, will be kosher. Because they don't learn. El means Dafka right there, means it doesn't mean exact. That's why we use Yosef, the Rabbi Yehuda, with the El Dafka, El Meichach, Al Navi Dafka. Since the El means Dafka, according to the Rabbi Yehuda, means right there. So by the Havitzak, I can put him, it says, it's by Al Pnei HaKaperes. So let's learn Al means Dafka on the Kaperes. El in the Mikdash, and El in the Mikdash, Shein Lo Yav Arum Kaperes. But in the second English, there was no Arum Kaperes. So you can say they didn't do any sprays. Because he's saying, Rabbi Yehuda says, only place you can spray is by the Kaperes, on the Kaperes. But in the second place of English, they didn't have, they hid the Arum and the Kaperes. The Arum with the cover, with the crew, it was all hidden. So where are you going to spray? You can say there was no sprays? That's impossible. It means, doesn't mean the Aron itself, the place which was holy and designated for the Aron, that holy place is where they spray. Both prices, the price that apostles hazois, that it wasn't exactly connected to Heichel, and the price that's machshir, they're all like the Chachamim. The claim is the second price that's machshir the hazois, even if it's not exactly towards the entrance of the Heichel, the kohen is that the kohen was standing facing the Meir, the west, and his back towards the east, and he sprayed the blood. So since he's standing with his face towards the Heichel, and he's spraying, so he's fulfilling his chayv, even if the hazois are not exact. The ikar mitzvah is to spray towards the binyan of the heichal, even if it's not mamish connected the entrance of the heichal. The first price that possibly the kohen suffered the daramai, that the kohen was standing between suffer and daram, not even towards the heichal. So since these hazois were not even towards the heichal, then it's possible. Law.